Mike Hamilton.
Jake Milstein.
So you want to know something really exciting that happened this week?
The quarterly business review.
There was also that, but I also got to see you and Fred, and it was it was great. And
It was a lot of people.
Yep.
Yeah.
I want everybody to know that I did something that is so wonderful in embarrassing Mike Hamilton. All from now on, anytime somebody gets a proposal from us, somebody says, yes, I'd like a quote for managed detection response, or I'd like a quote for a something that we do, pen test, whatever, it will come with a picture of Mike Hamilton. That's right. And he hates it, and I love it. So that's right. Ask us for quotes, and you can see the picture I picked for Mike Hamilton. All right, Mike.
All right, Jake.
Hey, so more serious news. We have an upcoming panel discussion on how to prepare for your next cyber incident. And I know somebody's like, I'm not going to have one. Yeah, you know you are.
This is super important. This is super important. You are not going to prevent. You are going to have to figure out how to take a punch. This is important to attend, I think.
Yep. So Tuesday, January
I'll be there, but I will not be talking because other smarter people will be talking.
Tuesday, January 24th, 10:30 a.m. Pacific, 1:30 Eastern. You can go to our website, criticalinsight.com, click on events, and you can sign up there. So we look forward to seeing you for that event. We just did an event, Mike, about the LastPass breach. Obviously, a lot of people concerned about the LastPass breach. The bad guys did get passwords; they're hashed, but
source code.
There's a lot of concern around that. And Mike, one of the things we told people is, we have some folks who use LastPass, and we're going to make a different recommendation for them.
Right. So we went through a process, and as objectively as possible, picked a replacement, looking at the different attributes, right? The feature sets, the things like that, and the ones that were important to us. So we have settled on a product that will meet our needs, and we are also advocating a different product for people to use at home so that they don't mix up their personal stuff with the business stuff, but still they have, something secure for, retail sites, things like that. So, yeah. And what we said was, we're being transparent about this. That we would follow up with the folks that attended the panel and, let them know how we made our decision and what the decision was. So I think we'll probably do that in the next couple of days here.
Yeah, we're working on that memo. If folks didn't attend that and are interested, go ahead and email me, jake@criticalinsight.com, and I'll send you the memo as soon as we're finished with all of the revisions. Also, importantly, in the chat here, Brian says you can't embarrass Mike. And Brian, I want you to know that almost daily, my goal is to embarrass Mike. I have done it now multiple times in multiple places, both in person and on video, and I will continue to.
And on stages in front of lots of people, I will point out.
That did happen. You might want to ask the city of Spokane about that. So there are some important headlines to go through, Mike. I've seen a whole bunch of stuff, including LastPass, Okta, Norton, Norton LifeLock. I mean, what's going on there?
So enterprise tools are being targeted, and there seems to be a predisposition to go after the tools that have to do with credential management, although not all of them, because Slack is on that list too. So, when we did our LastPass panel freak out, one of the things we talked about was the potential here, if they have source code, to modify the source code and then somehow insert that into the update stream the way SolarWinds happen, and all of a sudden then everybody is compromised. So that is a threat. So it's Circle CI, LastPass, Okta, Norton LifeLock just a couple of days ago announced, yep, they got it too, and Slack. So, all of these things require vigilance, in making sure that any aberrational activity is, used to alert, and you need to investigate and, make sure you know where your updates are coming from.
Yeah, and by the way, one of the folks who came to the panel said something very important, which is we didn't know about Norton LifeLock then, but
Yeah.
they said, look, even if you don't know if your employees are using LastPass or now Norton LifeLock or anything, they might be, and so you want to reach out to employees and let them know these things because they might, they're not your employees might not be security experts. They might be, city employees. They might be, hospital employees. They don't pay attention to the stuff, and so you probably want to reach out and let them know.
Yeah. I'll add one point that Mike Simon made, which I thought was pretty good. So Okta is one of the ones on the list. And so we're considering Okta for some things. And, I said, hey, their source code has been lifted. Shouldn't we, make that part of our evaluation here? And he said, if you're worried about doing business with firms whose source code has been stolen, you can't use Microsoft Windows, which kind of drives that home. It's source code has been stolen. Whether or not it's going to get used, can it be used against you? I mean, there's this really big risk calculation that you should do rather than just making a snap judgment. Their source code got lifted, so I can't do business with them anymore. On the other hand, LastPass, credential management, when they have stolen all of the
Hmm.
encrypted vaults and the source code, that really gives them a leg up on being able to tease out the secrets that are in those vaults.
Yeah,
Especially like we said, if you have picked a bad master password to access the vault,
yeah,
if that can be guessed, you need to be changing passwords everywhere now.
yeah. I mean, my passwords are all 4675309. Call Jenny! Exclamation mark!
Oh,
Exclamation mark! So, um, all right, Mike.
why do I think that's actually true? Mm.
I don't know. Why do you think that, Mike? Why do you think that? So, hey, healthcare, there's a lot going on in healthcare. And in just a couple of weeks, I'm going to be going to the American Hospital Association conference with
Hmm.
you in San Antonio, the rural conference. But there's a lot going on in healthcare.
Yeah, in fact, I'm going out to brief a hospital board in Kansas next week, and we're also going to the Idaho Hospital Association. So, yeah, so a lot of things going on in healthcare. Health and Human Services is releasing yet more cyber guidance, right? You want to check that out because there's going to be some not only good advice in there, good recommendations, but there will be tools and services that you can likely access at low cost. They haven't released it yet, but I anticipate that's what's going to be in there. Largely the way Homeland Security will do things like scan your perimeter, conduct a penetration test for you. When you schedule it, it's like a year out, but they will do those things. Um, HC3, which is kind of the health ISAC, right? Information Sharing and Analysis Center. They are warning that ransomware operators are continuing to target the health sector. It looked like there was kind of a drop off, and there was going to be straight up extortion based on records theft. Pay us, or we're going to make all this public.
Yeah.
Ransomware is not going away,
No.
and in fact, globally, the attack traffic, cyber attacks, increased by 38% last year, and that was particularly hard in the healthcare sector, and that follows the previous year 2021 there was an 85% increase. So this stuff is going nuts. We have all of these new actors out there, activists, mercenaries, initial access brokers, and in fact the initial access market is booming. There's a whole bunch of these operators now that just you contact them and you say, I want access to a backdoored workstation inside business X, and you just pay for it, and then you're in.
And by the way, if you, I mean, all and every part of that equation is more and more disgusting, right? Like, I want
Yeah,
access to a hospital. Like, come on, who are you? Like, oh, these are the worst people in the world, Mike. These are the
yeah.
worst people in the world. All right, um, Russia. We haven't heard that much about Russia recently. What is happening in nation state politics?
Well, geopolitics continues to, drive attacks. I mean, there's just a lot of retaliatory, and a lot of it's volunteer driven. What was the latest thing that happened? Samsung in South Korea has been breached by Russians, and they say specifically this is because you're cozying up with NATO. So, geopolitically, as the war in Ukraine goes on and everyone has picked a side and they're supporting their side, there's blowback. On the other hand, the pro-Ukrainian hackers, this article is fascinating. So they're leaking all of this Russian data in the hope that somebody will do an analysis, make sense out of it, and make it useful, right? They say in this article they have data on every Russian citizen. All right. Now I don't know how that's possible unless you are China and you steal it from the U.S. But that's an amazingly effective group of people if they do indeed have all that data. And so it's showing up on distributed denial of distributed denial of secrets and places like that. So if you read Russian and you want to get into the research biz, there you go. On the other hand, for our own security, this isn't so much about Russia. This is more about fending off infrastructure events. And you and I have talked about this a lot. So there are a couple of ways to go about regulating, and one of them is just straight up regulation. There's a whole lot more of that coming. We know the SEC is doing it. Health and Human Services. Okay, they're going to release more guidance. All right. But on the other hand, the Biden administration is getting real aggressive with the rulemaking process. Yeah, there's going to be some straight up regulation because we have to stem this problem. But there are certain abilities that the administration has because they have these existing authorities, right? So there's a sector specific agency for all the critical sectors. And the administration can say, EPA, you already have purview over the water sector. We want you to straighten out their cybersecurity. So tell them what they have to do. So all that is starting to come for the critical sectors, right? And that's not the same as new regulation where, the SEC is going to include new audit items when they come out and audit you, right? Or the FFIEC when they come in and audit you, right? If you're in the finance sector. So, and we've talked about this. We knew this was going to come. Right when the Colonial Pipeline thing happened, we found out the TSA was the sector-specific agency there. It was like, oh, we never told them anything about that kind of security. Well, now all that's bouncing back the other way.
Yeah, I mean, wouldn't it be great if at some point we could become not just reactionary? Wouldn't that be great?
Well, we're a long way off, and
I
in
know.
fact, this is all going to get worse because there's a whole lot of articles out right now about people using Chat GPT to write malware. Okay, that's the tip of the iceberg. There are pieces out there talking about open source AI and how it's being implemented by the criminal community to develop malware that cannot be detected, that doesn't use regular malware techniques. Because remember, this AI stuff has basically read the internet, right? It's got all this context it can draw on. So
Hmm.
that's starting to get pretty worrisome,
Yeah.
and it's happening very quickly.
Yeah.
So you know, who else besides China is running really sophisticated propaganda campaigns, right? Information manipulation, opinion manipulation, and
Hmm.
right now it's largely concerned with the Uyghurs, and China's trying not to look as bad as they really are, but their sophistication has gone up. Um, in government, though, I gotta dwell on this for a second. What the hell is going on with this grant program? Because
It is
as
taking forever.
it's not only taking forever, some states are doing it wrong. Now, I am not going to identify the state, but I have had conversations with a county in a state where they say, right, so right now there's supposed to be this year of planning going on by these state committees. One state said, okay, here's the laundry list of items. Here's the notice of funding opportunity. It's got the rules in it. Pick anything you want off the shelf and buy it. All right. That's not
Mhm.
the way this is supposed to work. The state's supposed to have a plan, and any local government that wants to access the grant funding has to buy into the entirety of the plan. And there are a whole bunch of outcomes that need to be met. And so this particular state is doing it really wrong. And I don't know what implication or
Well, I mean, when don't they have to submit the plan to the feds? The feds can say no, right?
I don't even think they did that. I think they're just I don't know what's going on. But
Okay.
there's this interesting article out. talking about how some states have completely rejected this thing because of the reporting requirements and the complexity.
And so
And
they're just like, hey, we don't want the money.
yeah, yeah. And procurement, if every local government has to go through competitive procurement for everything they buy, all that does is make it more expensive. It just,
Yeah.
everybody's got to use their time to be on these committees to select products. So it looks like a mess.
So
It
are
does
you
look like a
saying
mess.
are you saying that a large bureaucratic federal process is large and bureaucratic?
Essentially, yes.
Oh, well, that's good. I
Yeah,
appreciate that. I
yeah,
appreciate that. Do you have
yeah.
any actual red tape you could pull out for this conversation?
No, 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 I don't.
All right, Mike, threats and vulns. What's up?
So let's see. Microsoft just dropped 98 patches on all of us. So you
If
got to
it was
reboot.
99, they could be lift balloons.
They could be. They could be. And that was T-ball. So, um, I realize we haven't met since December 22nd. But here's your weekly admonition that Chrome and Firefox need to be updated. Update your iPhone. It needs to be at 16.2. It's a fairly large update, at least it was for my phone, but that needs to be brought up because there's some bad stuff going around on iPhones. What else? Git source code repository needs to be updated to prevent remote code execution. There was a Sophos patch for Sophos Firewall that came out in September. Apparently, there's something like 4,400 firewalls that you can easily identify on the internet that are still vulnerable. Because remember, Shodan is out there and it's easy to find that stuff. There's some routers, Netcom and TP-Link. I think these are consumer grade devices. They have authentication bypass problem, so they need to be updated, or that's easy just to take over your home network. Interesting that some of these tried and true pieces of malware just keep coming back from the dead, right? So Qbot Trojan has now overtaken Emotet as the most prevalent malware found in the wild. And 7% of organizations worldwide have been hit with this. Now think about that. There was
It's a lot.
7% of I don't know how accurate that number is, but when you read that, that's just a jaw dropper, man.
I don't. It's. I don't know. I have doubts about the number, but okay, keep going.
Okay. Um, 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 Zoho, which is kind of management, help desk services, things like that.
Yeah.
I forget what's called. It's called Managed Engine or something like that. They're going to release a proof of concept exploit because this is part of responsible disclosure, and they were told, and you need to patch because here comes the exploit, and that's going to be weaponized really quickly. And the last
And I
one,
know a lot of MSPs use Zoho.
yeah,
A lot of IT departments use Zoho.
right. So, I mean, they will, and a lot of local governments use MSPs. Fortinet says you're not patching your Fortinet firewalls, and it's being actively exploited to hack governments. So there's a bunch of threats and vulnerabilities.
Well, now that I don't feel much better about the world, at the end of all of these, and we're coming to the end here, you have a kicker. That's the thing where you make us smile. Do you have something to actually make us smile, Mr. Hamilton?
I think so. I
What do you
think
got?
it's the irony of all of the talking about, being replaced by artificial intelligence and, um, who's going to be first. And it looks like we've found our candidate. So there's an AI powered robot lawyer that will be the first of its kind to represent a defendant in court. So, and I think you and I even, mused about this at some point. One of the easiest things to replace would be attorneys because they follow this large body of established law that can be ingested to train AI pretty easily. And so here we go. The AI lawyer tells the defendant what to say in real time through headphones. So it's going to be bizarre, but we have our first now job that's been knocked off by AI, and I can't say I'm
Well,
crying
maybe.
crocodile tears about it.
Yeah. All right,
You
everybody.
laughed.
Well done.
Maybe that was just polite. I don't know.
Well done. Well done. Well done. You succeeded. So I
Okay.
do need to tell everybody, here's some useless or maybe useful knowledge, depending on who you are. An acronym, you have to be able to say an acronym. This came up this week at our QBR, which stands for something. You don't say Cuber,
Mm,
therefore it is an initialism, not an acronym.
okay.
There you go. That's
As
it. There's
opposed
your
to
use.
Pisces, the Public Infrastructure
Well done.
Security Cyber Education System.
That's right. That's your acronym. All right, everybody.
Yeah.
Have a great day. I hope that useless knowledge is good for your Thursday. Bye bye.
Bye.